NBC Connecticut News starts now.
We are following two big stories tonight. The investigation continues into the commuter train collision that injured as many as 60 people, with 3 still in critical condition. But we begin with breaking news out of Bridgeport. There has been an arrest in the case of that missing ECSU student. Alicia Wiley's longtime boyfriend, Jermaine Richards, is now in custody. And this comes just hours after remains found yesterday were identified as those of Wiley. NBC Connecticut's George Colley is live at the boyfriend's home in Bridgeport, where there has been a lot of police activity. George.
Well, Jeff, yes, 30-year-old Jermaine Richards is in custody. He has been charged with kidnapping and murder in the first degree. Now, we're outside his house here at Beardsley Park Terrace in Bridgeport, where state police are continuing to walk in and out, continuing to process the evidence here on this scene. From what we hear from state police, Richards turned himself in to Troop G here in Bridgeport right around 3 p.m. today. Now, Alicia Wiley, she went missing on April 20th. The search had brought investigators from Willimantic, where she was a student at ECSU, here to Bridgeport. They were searching on land, they were searching underwater, and it was just yesterday that human remains were found in Trumbull, not far from the Bridgeport line. State police did identify those remains as the 20-year-olds this afternoon. Shortly thereafter, around 3 p.m., as we said, Richards turned himself in. Now, there was a walk earlier today put on by Alicia's family just before the news of the arrest, and her mother, who had never given up hope that this would end differently, spoke with us.
A young woman who loved life, who had her goals set, knew where she wanted to go, and knew what she had to do to get there. And she loved it all to the fullest.
And so we're now back taking a live look on the scene here at Beardsley Park Terrace in Bridgeport. This is where Jermaine Richards lived. Police are continuing to walk out. Now, from what Alicia Wiley's mother told us, she said that the major crimes detectives went to her home, went to her door, and personally told her when they were able to identify that those remains were found were in fact her daughter's. She also says that her daughter was taken from her by a selfish and malicious person, and that she loved God and God loves herself. Certainly the family is praying today. I spoke to her mother several times. They spoke of the faith that they had and that Alicia had. Certainly this ended up much differently, but it appears that justice may be served here in this case. We're live in Bridgeport. George Colley, NBC Connecticut News.
All right, tough day for the family. Thank you, George. Now to our other big story, that collision on the tracks. Train service in the busy New York to New Haven corridor may be restricted for days as investigators figure out what caused Friday's rush hour crash. The trains collided just after 6, just past the Fairfield Metro station near the Bridgeport border. The crash site is a 200-yard area between the Fairfield Metro and Bridgeport stations. According to Metro North, a 441 train from Grand Central derailed and was then hit by the 535 train from New Haven. Federal investigators may be at the site for the next 7 to 10 days, and there is no word on when train service will be restored. But you can count on needing to make alternative plans for your commute to work on Monday. Just over an hour ago, we received an update from the National Transportation Safety Board. They are focusing on a rail joint fracture in the area of the collision. They don't know if it was caused by the crash or if it was already there. They are also looking at data recorders and speaking with train conductors and staff. NBC Connecticut's Stephania Jimenez has more now on the investigation.
The sides of cars are torn away like ribbons of cloth. Tons of metal tossed around like toy things.
Senator Blumenthal describing what the damage looks like up close after 2 Metro North trains heading in opposite directions collided around 6 p.m. yesterday. At this point, no one knows why. That's what the National Transportation Safety Board is trying to determine, and they're not ruling anything out.
We'll be looking at the braking performance of the train, the condition of the wheels, the condition of the car. We'll be looking at the general condition of the track.
Earl Weiner says federal investigators will spend the next 7 to 10 days inspecting the scene between the Fairfield and Bridgeport train stations.
Our mission is to understand not just what happened, but why it happened.
The trains involved in the accident will remain on site while the National Transportation and Safety Board investigates, and that means that travel will be disrupted. We're told that Amtrak is suspending travel between New York and New Haven indefinitely. It's unclear when service will be restored. For now, leaders are considering a temporary system moving passengers to another station.
You should begin making plans either for alternate travel or go to the DOT website on an ongoing basis.
Stefania Jimenez, NBC Connecticut News.
Well, at least 8 people injured in the crash are still in the hospital. 3 are in critical condition. In all, more than 60 injured passengers were taken to area hospitals. Emergency room doctors at St. Vincent Medical Center in Bridgeport treated most of them. NBC Connecticut's Seth Lemon checked in on the emergency response.
As you can imagine, an emergency department on a Friday night is a little bit busy anyway.
And it only got busier. Doctors, nurses, and hospital staff worked tirelessly as injured passengers from the Metro Rail North train crash trickled into St. Vincent Medical Center, some by ambulance, others driving themselves.
We were actually lucky enough to be able to have a shift change taking place, and we had some extra staff available, so we helped people back.
Diane Auger is the vice president at St. Vincent. She spoke to NBC Connecticut over the phone.
Marshaled resources and were able to see people in a very, I think, timely fashion.
Auger says within a 3.5-hour window, most of the patients had been treated and released, suffering only minor injuries like cuts, bruises, and back pain. Still, 2 passengers at Bridgeport Hospital 3 miles away are in critical condition, and 1 passenger at St. Vincent remains in ICU.
We hope that this patient recovers, and we're doing our best to make sure that that happens.
In Bridgeport, Seth Lemon, NBC Connecticut News.
As for Amtrak, service is still suspended between New York and New Haven because of that crash. There is limited Northeast regional service between Boston and New Haven. There is no estimate on when full service will be restored. Stay with NBC Connecticut on air and online for continuing coverage of the Metro North crash. You can get the latest updates anytime at NBCConnecticut.com, and we also will have updates on Facebook and on Twitter. We're following a developing story out of Plymouth where an ultralight plane crashed at the Gentiles campground located at 262 Mount Toby Road in Plymouth. A viewer sent us these pictures of the plane stuck about 20 feet up in the trees. Firefighters were able to pull the pilot out to safety. There are no reports of injuries. 1 person is dead, 2 others injured after a shooting in New Haven. This happened just before 2 this morning near Crown and College Streets. Police say they found 1 person shot in the leg. 21-year-old Tyrell Drew was taken to Yale New Haven Hospital. That's where he later died. A 3rd victim went to the hospital around 3 this morning. No word on any suspects. Thousands of dollars in food gift cards were handed out in Hartford earlier today in an effort to get guns off the streets. The Capital Region Gun Buyback Coalition hosted the event at the Community Renewal Team of Greater Hartford. The coalition includes more than a dozen groups, including hospitals, law enforcement, faith-based groups, and others. Organizers say the recent spike in gun violence in Hartford is a reminder of why these programs are needed.
And some of the data that the chief of police has demonstrated is showing an effect, but it's an effect that works in collaboration. It's not just one event. It's a multitude of things. It's education, it's officer presence, it's awareness in the prevention community, it's everything.
Guns can be turned in anonymously. They will be destroyed unless forensic testing shows that they were used in a crime. New developments in the terror in Boston. Prosecutors now say they will ask for more time before indicting Boston Marathon bombing suspect Johar Tsarnaev. Tomorrow marks 30 days since Tsarnaev was arrested. That's the deadline for an indictment under the Federal Speedy Trial Act. Prosecutors have not said what grounds they'll use for the delay, but experts say it could have to do with the defendant's physical capacity. 19-year-old Tsarnaev remains in a prison hospital after being wounded in a gun battle with police. 3 people are out of their home tonight after an early morning fire in Southington. This happened just before 1 a.m. on Old Farms Road. Fire officials say they had to call in help from Cheshire and Plainville. 3 people got out okay, but the house is a total loss. Investigators are still looking for a cause there. A Fairfield University student set to graduate tomorrow is dead after a 1-car crash. This happened in Fairfield. 21-year-old DeAndre Lawton was studying business. He will be remembered at a mass today on campus, and counseling services are being offered to students. Parishioners of a Willimantic church will have to find another home for the time being. The fire destroyed the inside of St. Mary's Church Thursday night, and members don't know when they'll be allowed to return. But St. Joseph's Church down the street is welcoming parishioners until St. Mary's can reopen. The fire marshal says the structure of the church is still intact. The cause of that fire is under investigation.
Jeff, it was a rainy afternoon down in portions of Fairfield County. For the rest of us, just some clouds. We'll talk about the forecast for the rest of the weekend coming up.
Thank you, Ryan. The promise of a Powerball payoff has more people playing the numbers. The payout and Powerball fever coming up. Plus, delaying retirement, how long people are staying in the workforce and why.
This is NBC Connecticut News.
Dreams of an early retirement are becoming daydreams for many Americans. The average U.S. retirement age is now 61. That's up from 57 2 decades ago. And for those who are still in the workforce, their expected retirement age, 66. That's according to a Gallup survey. Experts say the economic downturn is partly to blame. Well, people are out in full force buying Powerball tickets, perhaps hoping for an early retirement after tonight's drawing. With the jackpot reaching $600 million, even people who don't normally play the lottery are taking an interest. And the jackpot could go higher before tonight's Powerball drawing. NBC's Brian Moore has the latest now on the nation's Powerball fever.
Plunk down a few bucks, win a few $100 million. I'm not this big. There's plenty to go around.
Once unimaginable Powerball players are now looking at the very real possibility of a $1 billion jackpot. Brian Moore, NBC News, Washington.
Twisters in Texas leave a path of destruction. We're going to show you the damage that even a small tornado can cause next.
And tonight, the tornado threat has moved north from Texas into Oklahoma, Kansas, and Nebraska. We'll talk about that. We will also talk about the forecast for the rest of the weekend and an unsettled week coming up. That's all ahead of my forecast. Stay with us.
Even a small tornado can pack a wallop, as some video we're about to show you. Well, this explains it all. A tornado struck Eliasville on Friday. It's about 2.5 hours from Dallas. A home and several ranch buildings were taken out by the twister. Despite the house taking a direct hit, the family did escape secretly after hiding in a closet. Safely, rather, after hiding in a closet. About 50 homes nearby were evacuated when another funnel cloud appeared. No injuries were reported, and this comes after they had a couple of really nasty ones earlier in the week.
They did, and the severe weather is really just getting underway tonight. Big tornado outbreak possible. Kansas, Nebraska, parts of Oklahoma, maybe northern Texas in the Panhandle, and then tomorrow more toward Oklahoma City, Wichita, Kansas City. So things are getting underway after a slow start to the severe weather season.
It's really kicked in.
Yeah, things are picking up. Let's show you what's going on outside. This is dry. More widespread showers and thunderstorms for Tuesday in the mid-70s. Cooler on Wednesday. It'll be warm back up to near 80 for Thursday. Shoreline high temperatures near 60 tomorrow with some showers. 70 on Monday. Some thunderstorms for Tuesday. Cooler on Wednesday. Warming back up. Early look at the Memorial Day weekend. Looking pretty good. Cooler than normal in the 60s, but no big storms in sight. So that's good news.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Ryan.
You're welcome.
John Chandler's here to look at sports. Another year waiting for a Triple Crown winner.
Last Triple Crown winner affirmed, 1978.
It's been a while.
Wow. It's been a minute or two, and it will continue for another year. An upset at the Preakness today. We'll tell you about that. Plus, Yale lacrosse in position to pull a stunner of its own in the NCAA tournament today. We'll check in on the Elons in sports.